What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ, Bucky, and Rhett back with you as we are here. We made it to week 1 of the NFL season. It is a loaded podcast we have coming your way. We're going to have more Move the Sticks than you've ever had in your life. Be on the lookout for that. But we are ready to roll. We made it to week 1, Buck. We finally made it.
Yeah, we finally made it. This is what we've all been waiting on. It's the kickoff to the NFL season. We love college football, but there's nothing like the National Football League, seeing the top teams. We get a chance to see the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions kick it off on Thursday, and that is going to set the tone for a great week of football.
Hey, look, guys, in the words, to borrow the words of a famous head coach in this league, this is why we got on all those planes, rented all those cars, sat in those directors' chairs out at fields across the NFL training camp landscape. This is why we did it. And it's for Thursday night. It's for the NFL season opener. All the inside training camp, all the preseason coverage we did, it got us ready for this moment. I'm fired up.
Yeah, this is so fun, man. It's great to have it here. Buck mentioned it, Thursday Night Football. We're going to see the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's going to lead us right into what we're doing because we're going to go division by division. It's week 1. We're going to give you kind of our big picture ideas of what we think is going to happen in these divisions, the storylines that we'll be following, and I think we start right there with Kansas City in the AFC West, a team that's just dominated. They've dominated this division. They've owned this division. You look at it here, 11 titles from 2009 to 2019 for the Patriots. The Chiefs right behind them was 7. Talking about consecutive division titles. The Patriots got 11. The Chiefs roll off 7 in a row, chasing 8 this year. Buck, I guess first of all, I know they're the favorite, but I mean, do you feel like this is a foregone conclusion that number 8's coming?
No, I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. Obviously, with the Chris Jones situation kind of being a cloud over the top of the franchise, that could mess it up. But this is a team that has been able to dominate within the division because the quarterback plays great against his division rivals. That'll probably continue. But I do wonder if defensively they're going to be good enough to match up with what I think could be a high-powered offense in L.A., a much improved offense in Denver. And then we'll just kind of see what we're going to get from Josh McDaniels and the Raiders. This defense, without Chris Jones, it's a middle of the pack at best defense. With him, they can compete. Without him, makes it very, very difficult for this team to get stops.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you on the Chris Jones impact. Is it going to be midseason when he decides to show up? And then what happens? How long does it take him to ramp up into, the form that we're accustomed to seeing from? Is it week 12, week 13? Look, you'd love to have him for the last quarter of the season, certainly at minimum. And that's a good time to get it back. But, man, you hope that you're still, in a good spot. And obviously the offense can score a ton of points. What I'm most curious about, guys, is the explosiveness of this Chargers offense, DJ, that you see each and every week during the NFL season. With Kellen Moore now leading the charge, you add Quentin Johnston into the mix. I think for so often in the last couple of years, you've seen Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, miss a handful of games, and it's kind of derailed what the Chargers offense could be. And now you have another high-end depth piece to throw into that mix at the receiver group if something like that happens. Plus, if they're all healthy, my goodness, right? And then Austin Eckler, obviously being the weapon that he is. And then I think ultimately for the Chargers to challenge the Chiefs truly, it's going to come down to whether, a guy like Rashawn Slater and on the other side of the ball, a guy like Joey Bosa can play more than 8 combined games this year. Obviously injuries, are a terrible piece of the game, and those two guys felt the brunt of it last year. Those guys stay healthy. I think the Chargers have as good a chance as anybody to knock the Chiefs off that perch.
Yeah, I do. I feel the same way, Rhett. And I think this is the best Charger team. I've been calling their games for 6 years. So this is the best roster by far that they've had. It's the best offensive line. They have the most depth in their front 7 that they've had. Now, J.C. Jackson's kind of a mystery. What's that going to look like? But offensively, you mentioned it. With Kellen Moore coming over there, they're going to live in 11 personnel. They're going to have 3 wideouts out there. You're going to have Eckler in the backfield. They're going to have opportunity to go hyper speed when they want to and get you locked in with whatever personnel you have out there on the field. And when you just look at the size of these guys, when you've got Mike Williams at 6'4", Keenan Allen at 6'3", and Quentin Johnston at 6'3 plus, and Josh Palmer's 210 pounds plus, they have so much size and physicality at the wide receiver position. Most teams, they're not going to have 2 big corners like that, much less 3. So they're going to have a matchup that they like at all times. And if Slater stays healthy, this is a really good young offensive line. So they've got a chance to have some firepower there. And then I think in the front seven with them specifically, Buck, you've got some matchup guys now. When you look at Kenneth Murray, who's had a great training camp, looks like the light kind of came on for him. He can do some different things with his size and speed and physicality. Obviously, Derwin James is one of the true unicorns in this league with all that he can do. Deion Henley, who they picked, I'm telling you, he's going to have a role in this defense, who's a former safety playing linebacker. They've got all these kind of positionless players that are going to be key, especially when you're defending that team specifically in Kansas City.
Yeah, they have all those players that are matchup weapons, and you want to build your team to win the division. So the Chargers have done a really good job of making sure they got the pass rushers. They have Derwin James, who can, in theory, line up over Travis Kelce. J.C. Jackson should be the guy that can handle your other number one receiver, your primary target in the passing game. This team, on paper, looks like it should be ready to go. The thing about this team is we've said that for the last 2 years, and at some point early in the season, they're going to get tested, and they will be able to begin the process of rebuilding the trust that might have been lost from players to coaching staff when they fell apart in the postseason. It's going to be really important that Brandon Staley navigates this team through a difficult circumstance early in the year so he can get them to fully buy in, because if they buy in, they are a top 5 team in this league, top 5 team in that AFC. They have everything in place to make a run at the title. It's about that belief. It's about being able to have those hard conversations to make sure that the trust is there so they can play well when you need to in adverse situations.
And that leads me to the next question, though. This feels like the headliners, right? And Kansas City's clearly the favorite. It feels like the Chargers are clearly the challenger there. So I'll get to both you guys. Rhett, you first on this one. Which team you believe more in between the Raiders and the Broncos?
It's the Raiders right now. I believe in the connection that Josh McDaniels has with Jimmy Garoppolo. And while, I don't ever want to count Sean Payton out. I know, he's too good a coach. I need to see it from them first. I need to see it with their receiver core, with Russell Wilson, and they're all back on the same page. I need to see that really develop before, I feel comfortable saying that. What it really intrigues me right now with the Raiders are two of their young players, really a couple of their young players. I think on the front end, you finally got Tyree Wilson back into training camp, played a little bit in that final preseason game against the Cowboys. If Max Crosby's the Condor, then Tyree Wilson is the Albatross. I mean, you want to talk about leading the league in wingspan. I feel like Tyree Wilson has the potential to give them what Chandler Jones did not. And then if Chandler Jones, can regain some of the form that led him, to be acquired by the Raiders, man, you've got a terrific rotation there getting after the passer in a division where you have to rely on pressuring the quarterback to have a shot for your offense. And look, I don't know that talent-wise Jimmy Garoppolo matches up with Derek Carr, but I think connection-wise with Josh McDaniels, he really does. And I'm really intrigued to see how they use Michael Mayer. I think that was a really good pick. I think that's something that this offense really needs. And look, Darren Waller is one of the very best, but it seems like Josh McDaniels is maybe more intrigued and has a better plan for a player like Mayer who can give you more of a traditional tight end skill set. So how they work him in with Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams, guys, is and Bucky, I'll get that over to you. Really, really kind of intriguing to me in this division.
Yeah, it's really intriguing. So when you think about the Raiders and Josh McDaniels having his quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo, who can be that pass-first point guard, get it out to the playmakers, Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, let Josh Jacobs tote the ball a little bit. But really for the Raiders, the question marks on defense. Who is going to be the pass rusher that merges alongside Max Crosby? Thought Chandler Jones was going to be that guy, but maybe Father Time has finally caught up with him. So who is going to be that pass rusher? What contributions are going to get from the pass rush? And then you need a secondary that will be tested. Who are the guys that can make the plays to help this team get off the field? There's a lot of ground to still make up on the top two teams, but good coaching, a lot of listening and taking care of the execution will give the Raiders the opportunity to close the gap on their rivals.
Well, we've done it. We've achieved our goal. We've completely ticked off a fan base, and that's the Denver Broncos, who now are sitting back there saying, nobody believes in us. The 3 move the sticks guys not giving us any love at all. We're the cellar dwellers here. We just brought in a Super Bowl champion coach in Sean Payton. We're going to revive Russell Wilson. We've got some good pieces on defense. Look, I don't want to
sell
shortchange the Broncos. I'm with you guys, though. I'm with you guys, though. I feel like they're number 4. But the only thing I'll wrap this up on the AFC, just one cautionary tale for Raider fans out there. If you look at the Belichick disciples that have had issues, they have gone overboard with fit over talent. And that hasn't always worked out well. So that's my one cautionary tale. You still got to have dudes. So don't be pushing away dudes because fit. You need both, ideally. But if you've got to choose one over the other, man, I'm not so sure. I might lean towards talent a little bit on that front. All right, let's jump over to another division. Let's get to Bucky's division, AFC South. Buck, I'm going to leave it open-ended to you. This is a division that your Jags brought home last year. Not going to lie, it was not an impressive group beneath them. It looks like the Jags are the class of the group. But as you look at it right now, not only from your perspective calling Jags games, but just is it pretty obvious that it's the Jags and everybody else?
Oh, it's pretty obvious that going into the season, it should be the Jaguars that are listed as the favorite or the front runner. Trevor Lawrence in year 3 in the National Football League, second year in Doug Peterson's system. We saw at the end of the year, it really popped for Trevor Lawrence. Well, now you have an upgraded set of receivers around him. You had Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and Evan Ingram last year, and those guys are terrific. I think if we graded them, those guys are like B pluses as receivers. Well, you add Calvin Ridley to the mix, you're talking about an A, high-level A player. And so this is someone who, with a broken foot, had almost 1,400 yards the last time that we saw him play. All of those things are rectified after sitting out. Got his mind right, got his body right, and you've seen it. When he's been on the practice field, no one can slow him down. His speed is real. I would anticipate them using some things early in the game to get him loose.
Yeah, when I look at this division, DJ, in teams, below the Jaguars, because I agree, I think the Jaguars are the front runner at this point, entering the season as the favorites to win this division. I think of the two teams that are going to start rookie quarterbacks, right? The Colts with Anthony Richardson and the Texans with C.J. Stroud. The thing that I like is that it feels like the coordinators or the play callers, or, in Indy's case, the head coach, Shane Steichen, has a plan and has background in a plan that can help a young quarterback develop and succeed. The problem in the Colts case is I still don't think there's enough around Anthony Richardson to really, allow him to maximize his skill set just yet. When you look at, you want to go back to look at where Shane Steichen came from in Philly, they're nowhere near that in terms of target. And while I like what Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce can eventually become, and hopefully they get something figured out with the running back, they're not there yet. So how does that affect Anthony Richardson? And then down, in Houston, I look at where Bobby Slowick comes from in the Kyle Shanahan tree, and maybe finding ways to minimize negativity from the quarterback and put him in positions to succeed and distribute the football and run the football really well. I know they can do that with Dameon Pierce. I think that offensive line is better than people give them credit for once they get Titus Howard healthy. And so they brought in Kendrick Green too. Steps in maybe at center to kind of help fortify that thing in the middle. I'm intrigued with some of the pieces that Houston has, and I know they'll be better defensively with DeMeco Ryans, Deej.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, how Houston gets better. That to me is a storyline. I don't think they have enough talent to be a playoff team. This is a one playoff team division. It's it. It's the Jags. Okay. That's it. The rest of these three teams are going to be fighting out, trying to show that they can get better. Tennessee, of all of them, seems to be a little bit no man's land where, they've got more of a veteran-laden roster. I don't think they're good enough to compete with the elite teams in the conference. But they don't really have all this young talent that gets you excited about the growth as the other young teams in this division. So kind of a no man's land there for the Tennessee Titans. Again, we'll see the Jags, and that'll be it coming out of this division. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's jump into the other two divisions in the AFC, including the AFC North, where we've got stars, and the AFC East, where I think it's just the one person in the entire division. It's Aaron Rodgers. That's what I was told. We'll get into that right after this. All right, let's jump back into the previews here as we get to the AFC North. Talked about the AFC South. Look, that's a one playoff team division. This could be a 3 playoff team division. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, and Browns. I mean, it's up for grabs. I think any of these 4 teams could actually win this division, and we could see multiple playoff teams emerge. It feels like one of the most competitive divisions in the league. Buck, when you look at it, I know Cincinnati coming off a 12-4 season. Burrow looks like he's back practicing. He's going to be okay. He's going to be fine. But I feel like of all the divisions, this is one where I'd say, you know what, there's not a clear-cut favorite where there's a large gap. Certainly not a gap between 1 and 4. I think that's the smallest margin of any division in the league.
Smallest margin of any in the league for sure. And it's a toss-up in terms of who wins this division. I can sit up here and make a case for each of these teams being the division winner. But I'm going to make a case right now for the Cleveland Browns being the team to look at and the team to keep an eye on. When you think about their offense, offensively, they don't have a glaring weakness. Offensive line is solid, got weapons on the outside. Elijah Moore is someone that you want to keep an eye on. They're doing some unique and creative things with him in and out of the backfield as a hybrid player. We know Amari Cooper's the number one. Running back Nick Chubb can get it done at a high level. Defensively, I think they may have the best pass rushing combo of anybody in the league with Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett. And then what Jim Schwartz is going to do with those guys is going to make life easy on the secondary. The thing that everything hinges on for the Browns is how well does Deshaun Watson play. In year 2 under Kevin Stefanski, can he find his rhythm? Can he settle in? Can he be the quarterback that we saw in Houston? If he's anything close to the quarterback that we saw in Houston when he played at a top 5 level for a team that was a bad team, the Cleveland Browns are a team that we're going to talk about entering the tournament and being a dangerous team when they get there.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. It really hinges on the development of Deshaun Watson within the framework of this offense, and perhaps the flexibility of Kevin Stefanski as a play caller and as an offensive, game planner to figure out, how do I get the most out of Deshaun Watson? If that's going back to what they did in Houston where he was really thriving, then great. But the thing that intrigues me about this division, and I'll clue you in, I did my first fantasy draft a couple of days ago, and there were 2 guys that I had to leave my fantasy draft with. And those 2 guys were Zay Flowers and George Pickens. The hype and excitement surrounding those 2 were, on level 10, right, in this training camp and in this preseason. I was in Baltimore listening to coaches talk about Zay Flowers. Like, the more people I talked to in Baltimore, it was like, all right, it's Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. Like, yeah, this team has Odell Beckham Jr., remember? But it's still Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. That's not to disrespect OBJ. I think he'd be great in this offense, in the way that they're kind of redoing things here. And as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy, I just think that Flowers gives them an extreme explosive element all over the field, not just a slot guy. He can go out on the perimeter too. I think he moves around all over the place and then frees up some stuff for Mark Andrews as well. So I'm really excited about that part. And then George Pickens, man, you saw it come on a little bit with Kenny Pickett last year at the end of the season. And in the preseason and in training camp, and Pickens was a highlight reel. And so I wanted to make sure I had those 2 guys because those 2 guys are going to keep me tuned into this division all year long.
Yeah, I actually ended up with both of them in my fantasy team, but I won't waste everybody's time talking about my fantasy team as Rhett just did. But I am very bullish on those 2 players. Come on, dude. Really? We're talking about
Well, just give us some context.
A big preview episode here. No, but I do like that. My concern, I'll give you my concern real quick with the Ravens. My concern is this is like a team full of a basketball team of 6'10" guys that want to shoot threes. To me, let's not forget who you are and what you're all about. It's physicality, it's line of scrimmage, being able to run the football. Now they have all these receivers. They've never had this many guys. Which is, look, it's a good thing. It's going to take some pressure off their run game. Lamar's going to have more options, but I hope they still, remember their identity, who they are, their roots. We talked about Pittsburgh real quick. I've been bullish on them the whole offseason after going out there to training camp. That's a group that knows who they are, and one of the most pivotal players for them is going to be a rookie in Darnell Washington. It's their tight end out of Georgia. It's not going to be what he does in the passing game. Don't look for his impact in the box score. You're going to see his impact, what he does, not only in the run game, which we know he can maul people, but when you have to face some of the elite ends in the league, think about inside that division, just the guys that they'll be up against, the guys like Myles Garrett that you're going to see, Trey Hendrickson. He's going to be able to stay in and help a little bit, and it's going to be like playing with a 6th offensive lineman, help neutralize some of that pass rush. So that, to me, is a very pivotal rookie. I think this division is wide open. I think it could go anyway. I do think the Bengals are a little bit the favorite just because of Burrow and what he's accomplished and who he is and what he is. But coming off injury, to me, look, it's close. It's going to be a dogfight in this division all the way down to the very end. Now, the division that's got the most headlines, guys, throughout the whole offseason, and rightfully so, is the division in the AFC East. And the headlines have come from the team there at the bottom of the list with a 7-10 record, the New York Jets. Hard Knocks, Aaron Rodgers, all the attention in the world, all the hype in the world. But Rhett, when I look at it, people can get upset about it, but it's justified the attention they've got. They have a top 5 defense. They have a 4-time MVP quarterback now. With an offensive line, if they can stay healthy, I think is good enough with their front 5. I think they're easily the answer to who is the most improved team in the NFL.
Yeah, look, I would agree. I think you're right on with the offensive line. You're good enough because of scheme and of Aaron Rodgers' experience and ability to get the ball out quickly, and because of Garrett Wilson's ability to get open and generate separation quickly. And because, Aaron and Garrett, as we've seen throughout Hard Knocks and throughout, the entire training camp and preseason, they've got a great chemistry together, a great willingness to work together to figure things out after each rep, after each play. Really enjoyed kind of watching that develop, these last couple of weeks. So I'm excited by that. And then they gave us that little teaser, right, in the one preseason, game that they had, and, that little back shoulder in the end zone. That stuff, man, Rodgers to Garrett Wilson and company is going to be great. And then I'm really curious to see what the run game looks like at a couple of different destinations, like not just in New York with the share between Breece Hall and with Dalvin Cook, but also in Buffalo. Like, are we finally going to see James Cook? Are we going to see Damian Harris start to take some of the load, Bucky, off Josh Allen? And will that then allow Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to get back to doing what we saw them do 2 years ago, and which would, by my book, were the best quarterback wide receiver duo in football? Because last year it just felt like sometimes they just weren't quite there in terms of connection and being on the same page. I feel like they can get back there, and maybe some of that run game that they've tried now to kind of put a little bit more emphasis on in Buffalo can help do that a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm curious if Buffalo really wants to get to a 4th straight AFC East division title there, Buck.
Oh, yeah, you talk about Buffalo. Can they get back, and can they continue to dominate? It looks like they've stepped back. They've come back to the pack. The Jets are noticeably better. You think about what the New England Patriots have done in terms of just the coaching staff with Bill O'Brien coming over. They're a better team. The Miami Dolphins are better on paper. So I worry about the Buffalo Bills kind of, being out-talented when it comes to what they have, what they can try out and put out there. I know Josh Allen is terrific. He's a superhero. He can put the team on his back. But the more they put it all on him, the more I worry about this team being able to compete. So let's talk about the team, the Miami Dolphins, the speed that they have and how offensively they're going to challenge everybody in this division. Tua Tagovailoa being able to really hand it off to a 4x1 track team that is Olympic caliber with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill on the perimeter. Then you have Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson in the backfield and their ability to be able to run the football. And so this team offensively can give everyone problems. But the reason why they may jump to the front of the pack, Vic Fangio and what he can do defensively. We know Fangio is the master of keeping the ball in front, being able to really confound and confuse quarterbacks with, I would say, simplistic schemes, but it really is going to test all of these quarterbacks in this division. The Dolphins are sitting pretty. This division is wide open. And so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be fun to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Dolphins and what they're going to do. Look, we know the speed is there. They got to come up with a different pitch. They got to run the ball, and to me, that's going to come down to Mostert, and we'll see A-Chain get in the mix a little bit as a rookie. They've got 2 track stars to get in the mix, try and get that run game going. To me, the Patriots. This is my takeaway from the Patriots. As we were kind of getting ready for this, I'm looking over the rosters, and okay, what are the things get you excited? What are your concerns? And my concern with the Patriots is I don't know what jerseys they put for sale in the gift shop. Like, you look around this division and you see these star players everywhere, and I'm like, wait a second, are they selling Kendrick Bourne jerseys in the gift shop in New England? Like, are we like they don't have nearly the star power that these other teams have. Now, what they have is the greatest coach of all time and an identity as a physical football team on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And to me, that's always provided a higher floor. They've had the ceiling because they've had enough star players. Maybe not as many as everybody else, but they had them at the right positions, obviously, namely quarterback. They don't have that anymore. So I still feel like the floor is high. I don't see this team, winning fewer than 7 games, but I don't think the ceiling is very high with this team. So to me, This is a 7-8 win team. I think they're a middle, maybe they finish second or third in this division. I don't think they have nearly enough juice to overtake what they're going to be up against in this division on a weekly basis. So I don't know where you are, Rhett, but you tell me, what jersey you selling in that gift shop?
I mean, on offense, it's Ramondre Stevenson, right? I mean, like that's kind of what we're talking about here in the run game. And it feels like, when Bill O'Brien was there before, that's been their identity, in years past. I don't think Randy Moss is out there. I don't think Julian Edelman's out there. Wes Welker certainly isn't. So, what are you going to be able to do with a little bit of a hodgepodge there? And you hope Hunter Henry can get back into the game plan, here a little bit based on the amount of, resources that they expended at that position a couple of years ago. Obviously, Johnny Smith is gone. But look, you just hope that there's more competency, right, between Bill O'Brien and Mac Jones. And I think that's what we saw this preseason. Is it enough to carry them to, relevancy in this division or into the postseason? I'm not sold on that yet.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I do like the addition of, Zeke coming over, trying to really give them a big 1-2 punch in the backfield. But that's kind of 1980s football, and you wonder, will they be able to play that way and have success? Mac Jones is kind of operating without a backup right now. I know Matt Corral was picked up, but there's just too many question marks, like 5-6 days before you play your first game. I have a lot of concerns about the Patriots, and the one thing that we never used to question in the past, that they were always going to be a dialed-in, buttoned-up bunch. But after seeing last year's debacle, I do wonder if they're paying enough attention to detail when it comes to putting together a roster that can compete at a high level.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an intriguing division. Obviously, the Jets bring the intrigue. In that first game against the Buffalo Bills, hey, that might be a game where we learn quite a bit about what this division is going to look like. All right, let's take a quick break. We come back, we're going to jump to the NFC and go division by division, including the NFC East, where the Cowboys, is it their year? I don't know. The Eagles, to me, still a cut above. We'll get into that discussion right after this. All right, everybody, let's jump into the NFC, and let's start on the NFC East, where last year the Philadelphia Eagles marched all the way to the Super Bowl behind that 14-3 regular season record. The Cowboys not far behind, racking up 12 wins and getting their way into the postseason. The Giants gave them 3 playoff teams at 9-7-1, and the Commanders not far behind at 8-8-1. So no teams with losing records in the NFC East last year. You could make a case that every team in this division is somehow improved from last year. In a division that had 3 playoff teams, Buck, I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. At the end of last season, I thought, man, they are going to lose a ton of guys. They're going to have a tough time keeping this team together. Hey, look, Javon Hargrave is gone. That's a big loss. But then what they did in the draft, who they were able to re-sign and keep, and Jalen Hurts, just another year in the system, another year of growth and development. I feel like that they're like every other team in this division. They're improved.
Yeah, they are improved. And maybe Howie Roseman took a page from, I guess, his new favorite college team, Georgia, and just decided we're going to treat this thing like a collegiate team. We may have some guys graduate, but we got a set of underclassmen that are ready to fill in. And so those underclassmen, the Jordan Davises of the world, Jalen Carter's coming over, Nakobe Dean being elevated to a role, they get Nolan Smith. And so you're looking at this defense, you're like, man, they lose these talented players, but they appear to have guys in place to step up, and they're ready to make it happen. Offensively, Jalen Hurts. I mean, you can't bet against Jalen Hurts because we've seen how this guy has improved each and every offseason since he entered the league. Well, now he has more reps, more experience with his guys on the outside, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, respectively. He still can get it done as a runner when need be. I don't know why you would count out the Philadelphia Eagles. They've already proven to us that they can in the Super Bowl, that they can be one of those title contenders, one of those heavyweights, one of the last teams standing. There's no reason why they shouldn't go back-to-back when it comes to being able to win the NFC.
Yeah, look, I think the Giants are going to have something to say about this division. I think on both sides of the ball, they're going to be better. And this was a playoff team that won a playoff game a year ago. And I think with Daniel Jones now year 2, if look, if that one drive of the preseason tells us anything, they are comfortable in their skin, in this system, with Brian Daboll, with some of these new pieces that we're seeing here. Darren Waller is going to be targeted early and often, and that is a great thing for Daniel Jones. And Saquon Barkley back, I get it's the year deal, fine, but man, they're going to use him, they're going to run him, and I think the offensive line gets better. Andrew Thomas has shown up and shown that he can be one of the better tackles in football. So, I think the Giants are going to be more of a contender in this division, and more of a challenger to the Eagles than maybe we give them credit for at this point. I think defensively they get better too, and they can get after the passer out on the edge with Kayvon Thibodeau. Azeez Ojulari gets healthy. There's a lot to like there with that New York Giants team, DJ.
Yeah, I would have been pretty comfortable in saying Rhett was going to go with the Giants in the follow-up there. I knew exactly where that was going to end up. But which allows me to jump to the Dallas Cowboys. Left me some real estate here. To me, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, this is a team, when I went out there to training camp, guys, this is an offensive line that Zach Martin was not there at that point in time. Tyron Smith had a rough day. In fact, a lot of it was documented. What happened with him trying to go up against an elite player, and Micah Parsons did not go well that day that I was there. Terrence Steele was in and out of practice. Wasn't a full-time participant. So now fast forward, here we are to the start of the season. Terrence Steele, healthy, locked in, big-time extension he just signed. Zach Martin, they got that contract squabble worked out. He's back in the fold. And then Tyron Smith, look, he's not going to be the Tyron Smith of old. He's kind of the older Tyron Smith. But I think if they can keep this group healthy, they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay offensive line-wise. I think this offense has a chance to be, they want to run the ball a little bit more, be a little bit more balanced. I get that. I think they have a chance, as they've been in the past, to be a top, 10 type offense. They've been higher than that in years past. I don't think they're going to be quite that high this year. But I think defensively, guys, Buck, I'll kick it to you. When you look at this defense, when you add Mozzie Smith in there who can really hold it down at the point of attack, and you have DeMarcus Lawrence who can rush the passer, Odigizua who's a good young player, Parsons is elite, is special. They've got some other guys in Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams. They've got young athletic guys in that front. And then you've got guys in the back end that can take the football away. I think this has a chance. They've been a turnover machine. I think this has a chance to be one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. I think Dan Quinn has a lot of weapons at his disposal, and he's going to unleash those weapons at offenses around the league. It starts with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a freak of nature. He's a guy who can attack the quarterback from a variety of different angles, from a variety of different spots. That makes it difficult to game plan how to neutralize number 11. But it's not only him, because people are talking about DeMarcus Lawrence, but it's what they've assembled in the back end that I'm excited about. Stephon Gilmore pairing up with Trayvon Diggs. It's not only because Gilmore has played at a high level, but now Diggs can have a mentor to teach him how to work through some of the rough patches in his game. This team being able to really create turnovers in bunches because they get pressure, they attack the ball, they do it. With the offense that we expect to see, a more balanced offense, but one that still has some explosive potential, their ability to get stops and generate turnovers could really be the deciding factor in whether this team is 10, 11, 12 win team, or if this team gets them to that high cotton 14, 15 wins and really competes for a number one seed.
Did you guys happen to catch, Bucky, did you happen to see just how proud DJ was of that Tyron Smith anagram that he just kind of came up with on the fly?
You were proud. You lit up like a Christmas tree.
Well, I did, and then I was listening, and I was like, we got 15. You were feeling your oats because we got 15 seconds of word salad and zero analysis, and then you had to kick it to Buck to regain your composure and start talking about the Cowboys again. Oh, that was fantastic. Now, look, let's just say something quickly about the Washington Commanders here, because I know there's a lot of questions about whether Sam Howell can really be a quarterback within Eric Bieniemy's system that gets the most out of the talent that they have. But the talent that they have on the edge and the perimeter on offense is really dang good. I'm really excited to see what a full season of Jahan Dotson can bring. We all kind of loved him coming out of Penn State. I thought he did really well. The first part of that season for Washington was great last year, and then, kind of got banged up a little bit. Injury kind of thwarted what he might have been able to do for a full season. But he and Terry McLaurin together, again, with a pretty good 1-2 punch in the backfield too. Now, look, it's going to come down to whether their offensive line can protect and can keep Sam available to hit some of these top end targets, but I am at least intrigued by what Washington can do offensively. And then we know if they get their edge guys, their defensive front to play up to the potential that they have, man, that's going to be a tough front to deal with. But I think Washington, maybe not in terms of top of the division production, but definitely top of the division intrigue, guys, of what they might be able to bring offensively.
Yeah, there's no bad teams in this division. So you got to show up and play each and every week. They can all beat each other. We saw that last year with what Washington did. So going to be an interesting one to follow for sure. I still think the Eagles, the class of the bunch. Let's get over to the NFC North. The division, like we always say this time of year, it's the division of the Detroit Lions. I mean, let's go. The Lions have all the heat, all the buzz, all the conversation has been on them. Last playoff win, 1991. Okay, that's been a minute. Expectations are that comes this year. That happens this year, and it begins by them taking down this division. Buck, are you buying that?
I mean, I'm buying them as a team that is definitely in the conversation to do it. And the reason why is I love Ben Johnson's offense. Jared Goff is a perfect point guard for this offense. They have distributor. He can distribute it. He can get it to the playmakers on the outside and let them go to work. Jared Goff quietly played at a high enough level where he not only is a Pro Bowl candidate, but he's a guy that we could eventually maybe talk about at an MVP level if this offense performs to expectation. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams will eventually come back. Really excited about Sam Laporta coming over from Iowa. It's about giving Jerry Goff an opportunity to really put it all on his shoulders and allow him to really throw it. If he throws it the way that he threw it last year with the efficiency and the carefulness that he displayed, yeah, this team is going to score a lot of points and they're going to give people problems. And if they give people problems, that means they're certainly one of the teams that's going to be at the top of the board when it comes to the NFC North standings at the end of the season.
Yeah, look, I think it's hard to argue there that the Lions are the direct challenger at this point to the Minnesota Vikings, who sat at the top of the division a year ago. Could the Green Bay Packers, with Jordan Love and the young wide receiver core there make some moves? Sure. But I think with, the Lions, maybe more so than any team in that division, understand who they are. And I think we saw that within the draft. I think there was some courage there to say, yeah, sure. We'll take, not only are we going to take a running back in the first round, but we'll take an off-ball linebacker too, because they're what we need to get this team over the hump. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think Dan Campbell said this week in terms of his usage, he's not going to line up at punter. So anywhere else seems to be fair game, which is kind of intriguing because Ben Johnson has kind of established himself as one of these, he's got great ingenuity and command of how he wants to attack defenses. So a player like Gibbs with that kind of versatility in his skill set, I think is going to be really useful for this team. And on the flip side, I think Jack Campbell is going to be a stalwart in the middle of that defense, not just a guy that can stick his nose in and stop the run, but pretty dang good in coverage too. And I like what they do in the back end. And so I think that's where Minnesota kind of worries me a little bit, because there are some offenses here that can get up and down the field. I think from second level to back end of Minnesota's defense, there's some questions that they've got to deal with and get answered as this season rolls along, DJ.
Yeah, to me, I'm looking at Chicago, guys. This is a team, I think they're already winners before the season starts because they hold Carolina's first pick. Think of the trade last year. They've got Carolina's pick. And they've got their own. I know there's people that are bullish on them. You're going to see this huge leap, this huge jump, and Justin Fields is going to take off. I hope that's the case. I think they've got some better personnel. Offensive line's better. DJ Moore gives them a legit number one wide receiver. You saw in the preseason what he can give you run after catch. They're going to be better. I don't think that they're going to be an upper echelon offense, though. I still think this offensive line has some holes. So, yeah, improved, yes. But man, I look at the defensive side of the ball. Who do you really have to game plan around? I mean, they've got. I like Brisker as a young player. Tyreek Stevenson, I think, is going to be a good young corner. They got the rookie that I like. I mean, they go out and get Yannick Ngakoue late, and just he's right in the mix. He's a starter for them. I don't think when you're preparing the advanced scouting report that you really have to circle one guy on this defense and go, oh man, this guy can ruin our day. So I think the Bears still behind in this division, a little bit better, but not necessarily the leap that others think they're going to make. And I think the Green Bay Packers, to me, if you told me between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, I think I'm more bullish on the Green Bay Packers. With Jordan Love and how comfortable he seems to be, I just think the overall roster is in a better position. I think this division comes down to the Lions and the Packers when it's all said and done. So, we'll see how it all shakes out, but that's how I see it going down. It's going to be an interesting division to keep an eye on, especially with the Packers and Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers not being there. That'll be a big storyline we'll be tracking throughout the year. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to the NFC South and the NFC West. Plenty of intrigue in the South with the number 1 overall pick in Bryce Young. And then once we get out west, hey, is anybody going to compete with the Niners? I don't think so. We'll talk about it. All right, let's keep it rolling here as we get to the NFC South, and this is a division where you talk about turnover at the quarterback position. It's unanimous. We've got all new quarterbacks, from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield, from Mariota to Ritter, from Baker in Carolina to Bryce in Carolina, and from Jameis Winston to Derek Carr, the change that took place in New Orleans. It's a division that's been shook up a little bit here, Rhett, and when you look at it, to me, I think that the Saints have probably, I would say, are the team that's got the most buzz, highest expectations, I should say, for the New Orleans Saints this year. You agree with that?
Well, and I do agree with it. And I think it ultimately comes down in this division to who do you trust? And I think you trust a quarterback in Derek Carr that comes in with some pretty good weapons when everybody fully gets back and ready to roll. And, Alvin Kamara is going to miss some time. And, does Michael Thomas stay healthy and provide at least something opposite Chris Olave and with Rashid Shaheed in there? I know they're really high on Juwan Johnson, which I'm kind of curious about to see how that develops at tight end this season. Pretty good offensive line when healthy. So I like what they do offensively, but to me, this comes down to a defense in New Orleans that's been, really good in one of the best in the division, if not the conference, the last couple of years. So from Cam Jordan to Demario Davis to Marshawn Lattimore in the back end, they've got real playmakers at each level. I think the Saints are the class of this division, Bucky, and I'm not sure that it's really close.
Ooh. So my people up in Atlanta would take a little umbrage with that, knowing the rivalry that exists between the Saints and the Falcons. The Falcons would contend, you look at our offense, we can go toe-to-toe with anybody. They surrounded young Desmond Ridder with a plethora of playmakers that are fast, physical, and have advantages either physically or athletically. When I think about Kyle Pitts, Drake London, what they can do outside, looking like a basketball team, just bean topping those little DBs. And then Bijan Robinson teaming with Tyler Algiers to give this team a devastating 1-2 punch. And the rushing attack with Robinson also able to add something to the passing game. I like where the Falcons are at offensively. And if Desmond Ridder can just kind of be that John Stockton-like point guard that just hits guys with bounce passes and chest passes when they're open, this offense is going to score a lot of points. And even though we're optimistic about the Saints, I do wonder, in a shootout, can they go toe-to-toe with a team like the Falcons, particularly when Arthur Smith doesn't mind flipping the script and running the football down upon his throats?
I think the Falcons are going to be the most fun team to watch, Bucky, for the reasons you just mentioned. It's a positionless offense. They can move those guys. They're all interchangeable, moving them all over the place. I know Rhett's big on fantasy football. He likes to talk about it in every episode. So I went Bijan Robinson early in my fantasy draft because I'm big on what he's going to be able to accomplish for that group. But to me, when I look at the Carolina Panthers guys, we're kind of rolling through these teams. Is it possible to say I love the quarterback, I believe in the quarterback, but I don't think it's going to be very good this year? I don't think they have the pieces in place. We talk about the P's with the play caller, they've got that. You talk about the protection, that's a question mark. The playmakers, that's a question mark. He's part of the foundation of this team. I think they got it right. But, man, I just don't think there's enough around him. I do think the defense has a chance to be really good. Matt Rule did a good job kind of building that side of the ball up. They're very athletic. They're very explosive. So I'm more confident on that side of the ball, but I just don't think there's enough there offensively. And then, Buck, when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe the least talked about team in this entire division.
Yeah, least talked about team. Baker Mayfield takes over for Tom Brady. He will have an opportunity to, once again, resurrect his career. He'll get a chance to do it with some talented pieces on the outside in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. A lot of uncertainty in front of him, though, with that offensive line. You worry about the running game and, look, a first-time offensive coordinator calling plays. You just wonder how all of this fits. the thing that we do know about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Todd Bowles is going to control that defense, and that defense still has the firepower to be able to really make life miserable on quarterbacks. Devin White being able to kind of control it in the middle, the secondary with these veterans, young veterans that are ball hawks, they have some pieces to make it tough. A lot of it comes back on Baker Mayfield taking care of the football and the Buccaneers being able to run the football so he's not in pass-happy situations exclusively, because then life would be real, real tough for Baker Mayfield to succeed.
Yeah, if I'm reading into this, I think all of us, whether or not you fall on the Falcons side of things or the Saints side of things, it does feel like those are the two teams. That's the collision course. That's going to end up deciding this division. I think I probably lean a little bit more towards the Saints at this point in time as we're getting ready to kick it off, but that feels like the matchup we'll be keeping an eye on. All right, I'm going to challenge Bucky here because I know Buck, he worked with John Schneider. He's worked with the Seattle Seahawks. So this is where, a lot of times in media, you see it all the time. You see people that can't have an objective opinion. They have their biases. They get locked in. So I'm going to put Buck on the spot right here. Do you honestly think that anybody, including the Seattle Seahawks, have a shot of dethroning the 49ers this year?
I think the Niners are tough. They're the class of division, but the Seahawks have closed the gap. They're right there. If Geno Smith plays like he played last year,
I knew you could.
They're right there.
I knew you could.
They're right there. They're right there. They're right there, and they're there for many reasons. JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba gives them 3 wide receivers to go with, I believe, a very talented running game. And so when you think about the yin and the yang of the running game and the play action passing attack and the way they can attack, I like that. Defensively, they completely upgraded. Draymond Jones, Jaren Reed coming back, Bobby Wagner coming back, moving the furniture around in the back end where you have Julian Love coming over. You draft Devin Witherspoon. Yeah, why wouldn't I believe in the second coming of the Legion of Boom? The Seattle Seahawks have done a lot to put themselves in a position to overtake the Niners. And because it's such a bitter rivalry, I can't count them out. I think they're right there. They're right there with the Niners.
Yeah, I guess to me, for the Seahawks to really kind of come to fruition as a team that could challenge the 49ers within this division, or at least make it interesting, it comes down to whether those running backs stay healthy. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, who they drafted this year, and if they're going to be a 1-2 punch with an offensive line that proved to be pretty physical a year ago with some young players as bookend tackles, like those guys got to stay rolling, right? We can't. I know that they've got the receivers out there to work in a pass game, but I don't know that you want to put that much emphasis on the throw game with Geno without having a steady dose of that run game. So see if those guys can stay healthy. Defensively, I like what we're seeing in the secondary there with Reek Woolen and with Devin Witherspoon on the corners. I think that's going to be really fun to watch. Obviously, it was a year ago. What do they get out of Jamal Adams? I feel like he's been like the least talked about veteran player, who at one point in his career was one of the best in the game.
He hasn't played.
That's what I'm saying. So, what are we going to get out of him? I think it's a relatively unknown. Could be a nice bonus for the Seahawks defense. And then, guys, I just, the Cardinals and the Rams, I obviously have a lot more trust and confidence in what the Rams are going to be able to do this year. But to me, a large piece of that is whether Cooper Kupp can, put these hamstring issues behind him. And it sounds like that's still up in the air right now. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough slog for those two teams to kind of be competitive in this division.
Yeah, guys, to me, I think it's the Niners, and I think there's still a pretty good gap. Seattle is a good football team. I just feel like the Niners defensively, when they have everybody on the field, happy under contract, that this is a front that can just take over and dominate games. They've got talent. They've got depth. Javon Hargrave getting dropped into the middle of that defense is a big deal. They've got playmakers at all 3 levels, and they're just a physical bunch. Now, if you're asking me my concern, I'm actually, not even the quarterback is a concern for me. I know they went through everything with Trey Lance. They've moved on from him. Sam Darnold comes in to be the backup. I think if Sam has to play, whether Brock Purdy, something happened to him health-wise, or maybe he doesn't maintain the level he had last year, I think Sam's more than capable of operating this offense and them not skipping a beat. But offensive line-wise, to me, the right side of that line gives me a little bit of pause, a little bit of a concern there. That would be the one area of this Niners team that I'm not just completely sold on. But I do think that they are the class of the division. Yes. I think it's a two-horse race in the conference. It's the Niners, it's the Eagles. We talked about that at the very top. I think that's that's inevitable. And they don't like each other either, by the way. I think it's the best rivalry we have in the league right now, because they literally, it's not like, they're good, we're good. They hate each other. So that's going to be a fun one. Buck, I'll kick it back to you on these other teams, because I don't even know if they sell these anymore, but hypothetically, if they still sold programs, the Rams would break the record for programs sold this year, because there's no way any of these fans have any idea who the heck these guys are that they're trotting out there right now.
No idea. A team that went from really collecting stars, wanting to win with star power, when they had a group. I mean, they had every all-star you could think about: OBJ, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey. You think about Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, all those pieces. Those guys aren't there anymore. And so now it's Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, and a bunch of unknowns. And how well would those guys play being thrust into prominent roles? We've talked about it. Like, they talked about not really regarding those picks in high regard. And so what are they going to do? All of these young players, these developmental guys, you put them all on the field, I don't know if they all can play well. Matthew Stafford he doesn't complain, but his wife complained about him not really being connected with his teammates. To me, it looks like a disaster waiting to happen. Maybe it's different. Maybe that is just preseason fodder. We get excited about that. Maybe they're different now that we're about to play the real games. But it hasn't looked good to this point. I can't imagine it looking much better once we get to the regular season.
Well, I know one thing. When it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, teams love slogans. We've seen it with Deion Sanders, with Colorado. It was the "We Comin'." That was their slogan. "Why not us" is a slogan that we've heard. I mean, there's a million of these things.
I got fire in my gut, DJ.
Fire in your gut is not the one. The slogan this year for the Arizona Cardinals, it's 4 words. It's 4 words for their slogan. With the first pick, that's it. That's the slogan. It's not going to go well for the Arizona Cardinals this year, unfortunately. If you're a Cardinal fan, I apologize. But this is going to be a fun conference overall. Big picture, we've talked about it. Eagles, Niners, that feels like that's going to happen. The Cowboys, I think, are going to be a fun team. We're going to see, Bryce Young, the Carolina Panthers, talk about the Atlanta Falcons and all their versatile pieces. So while the AFC has the quarterback star power, we'll give them that. There is still a lot of intrigue left in the NFC, and we cannot wait to get this thing kicked off. Well, there it is. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. We will be with you each and every week, continuing to give you good football knowledge right here on Move the Sticks.